Hey everybody, Jake Clint, Dr. Jake Clendenning, on behalf of Mike Labersi, who couldn't be with us today. He's suffering from a thing. We don't know what it is, but he hopefully he gets better and feels better a little bit sooner. But I am very gifted and grateful today to be spending time with Steven Puri. Steven has been a executive at multiple production studios, worked on some massive projects. You should check him out on LinkedIn. It's just fun to see what he was involved in, as well as he's raised more than $20 million in venture capital. And you've got a really unique perspective. And I'm super grateful to spend time with you today. So, Steven, tell us a little bit. Where are you? What are you doing?
Michael's not dead, right? He's still with us?
No, he's not. He's playing sick. He's probably at a football game with one of the kids. That's realistically
Okay.
probably what's going on.
I just had to check because there's this poly market thing going. I want to know which side I'm betting on.
Fair point. Fair
Okay.
point. Well made. No, Mike's about as tough as they could possibly get. I'm not sure.
Okay. I'm betting on he's coming back from the dead. Lazarus bet.
Right.
Okay. So here's what's fun. If you are listening at home or you are playing along in the car, what is interesting in the next few minutes we're going to talk about are some of the lessons around how to use your brain in a really effective way, especially if you're remote, and some of the things that I've learned running a community of remote workers. So here we go.
I'm excited about it, man. So we were talking a little bit before the show about how you say community of remote workers. So within that one, define that for me, because it is so challenging to create what we would consider community, actual human connection while being remote. So define that a little bit more for me.
So true. Okay, I'm going to tell you a story about this that'll enter into that answer, right? So this part is I experienced a flow state, which I did not know the term, when I was flying to San Francisco. I'm in Austin. I was going to meet with my team the next day. And on the flight, I was going to mock up this idea for a feature, sort of hack it together in Figma just to show it and then let someone pick it up from there. On the flight, the Wi-Fi was out. It was Alaska, runs a nonstop on this route. We landed like 15 minutes after we took off. I was like, an engine fell off. They don't want to scare us. We're landing in Dallas, Fort Worth, right? No, Mr. Puri, look at your clock. 2 hours and 40 minutes have gone by since you looked at the clock on your laptop. And my designs were done. We were landing in SF. And I didn't have to run through the hotel lobby to grab a sandwich to go to my room to finish for the morning. I went to dinner with a buddy of mine. In the course of researching what happened, because I felt energized as opposed to drained, my work was done really quickly at a high level, learned about flow states, which we're going to go into deeper in this episode. But I tell you that just to set the table for this. Subsequent to that feeling of, wow, I'm in command of my day. This feels great. I built an entire website with the techniques that the smart people use to get into flow states easily and stay there, right? So we launched this. We had people come. And I realized everyone who comes is a remote worker. It's people largely developers, entrepreneurs, writers, designers, knowledge workers who work remotely, right? Now, I love interaction with the members. So I would be speaking to hundreds of different people in one-on-one conversations about what we're developing, what they need, you fixing their account when we had a bug or something. And I realized I knew all of them in a hub and spoke sort of configuration, but none of them had a sense of each other. We had built basically like a single player game, and there was no, oh my God, there are people to my left and right just like I am. So I had this idea about community of remote workers, right? Talked to a couple, posted, to a couple people that are in the platform. I was like, hey, can I talk to you for 5-10 minutes? I want to run something by you. Just give me honest feedback, as honest as you can be, Pitch this idea. What if there were like a sense of community here? What if it's not, here's the beautiful flow music you need, here's your Pomodoro timer, here's your task, here are all the things you need, right? What if it's not just that, but what if it was we instead of I? 2 semi-positive responses. 1 woman who's still a member, in the middle of my explaining this to her and doing that, but would it be distracting? And I'm trying not to, help people focus. I'm trying to make something distracting. She stopped me. She cut me off. She said, listen, Steven, I can go to the Nike store. I can buy a pair of shoes. They will sell me a left shoe and a right shoe. I put them on my feet. I run. It works great. But there are 100 million people in the Nike Run Club for a reason. Because together you run further, you run faster. The days you suck on the sofa and your friends come by and they're like, come on, Jake, let's do this. And you go run, it feels great. And the days that your friend sucks and you go by and you're like, Steven, come on, man. It feels great to be that person who lifts someone else up. She's like, absolutely do it. Watch what happens. Can I tell you, it is my favorite part of the platform that we built is in the morning, I go in there, I say who's posted what they're finished. You can ask for help. You can share things. Like if you're a blogger and you're like, hey guys, I just finished this blog post. Here's a link to it. Oh, I redesigned a website. Throw up a URL to it. That's really because it goes back to this. And this is what I think is so important about the experience of being human. There is a reason why in college we had study hall. You could study in your dorm room alone, but there's something about going to that room where all these other people are trying to do the same. Finals are coming. We got to. When I was a film executive, I was a vice president at Fox, executive vice president at DreamWorks or Kurtzman Morrissey, the whole thing, right? I would go home the weekend with 20 plus scripts I had to read, or treatments or books or, pitches. I could read them in my condo, right, in West Hollywood. I would go to this coffee bean and tea leaf that's across Sunset Boulevard from the Directors Guild that's known as like a writer's clubhouse. People didn't really talk to each other there. Everyone's on their little MacBooks trying to write something. There's the guy in the corner who's written 3 studio movies this year. He's making $1 million, $2 million a script. There are 2 girls next to you that got off the bus from Iowa yesterday. They're typing out their first little TV pilot. But the entire room has this energy of we're all trying to do something great. And that is absolutely what I think is important because remote work has huge advantages. Let's not kid ourselves. From the individual contributor side of like, I can manage my day, I can take care of more things, I can be more flexible with how I perform. And from the leadership side, you have a global talent pool. You can't just hire the designer that lives 20 minutes from your office. You can hire the designer across the world that's perfect for you. So many advantages. So long spiel, but in building a flow state app, I realized there was a community of remote workers that all wanted to have some sense of we're in this together. And that's what I love.
And the reality is we do. Everybody does want the sense of community. We say, right, quote unquote, we say we want to like work from home. I want to be there. I want to go to the office. I don't want to deal with the drama. I want to deal with the stuff. And some of that may be true, but they're still reaching out. They're still connecting. You made the point of saying, I could read the scripts at home. I could sit wherever I'm going to do it, but I went over here. And the reality is it is energy. Energy begets energy. Creative energy grows creative energy. There's whether we were having a conversation. My wife and I were listening to a podcast a couple of days ago. She's really in a big kick about cardiac health right now. As we age and we're getting older, it's stuff that she's got to pay attention to. So we're paying attention to that. And it's reverting back to some older Chinese medicine that we've heard recently called earthing. And but the science is grounding. And it's actual electrical protons and neutrons, electrical energy in your body grounding to the earth. So like when Steven's talking about everything is energy, what are you giving energy? What energy are you connecting to? So in this remote space that we're talking about, how are you connecting to the energy that feeds you? That really shows that abundance. What are you doing there? So that, that's what I'm taking from this conversation.
This is very true. I will give you a concrete example, and one of which I'm very proud, but this is a good example of this sort of thing. So in Suka, you get the tools I mentioned, the music, the timers, the smart assistant that keeps you off your phone or your website, whatever, right? You also have the ability to do what's often known as body doubling or social facilitation. It's in other words, you can work with your camera on because it keeps you more honest, right? You stop picking up your phone doing things when you know you can be seen. So you have that option. You can click it, turn on. There's a guy I saw a bunch the last year or two working, usually nights and weekends. So I do not know him, but he had a bio in in Suka. He's a little bio. So he's an assistant vice principal in Missouri somewhere. So this spring, you can every day post one thing that you finished, right? So when you complete a task, says, do you want to share this with the group? You can share it, and people are like, oh, it's cool, you did whatever. He shared his task that day, and it said, finish my dissertation. And people in the group chat were like, hey, man, that seems like not an everyday task you got there. Like, what's up? And he's like, oh, well, I'm this assistant vice principal, but I've been working on my PhD in engineering. I know between high school and my family, my kids, I get about 60 to 90 minutes a night tops. So I really have to use that well. I got to focus on that if I want to be a great dad and great husband and also do my day job well, right? I get a little time on the weekends. So I use Suka to be like in it, get into flow, work really hard for an hour, hour and a half, and crush it. So he said, that's why I've been in here nights and weekends, is doing my studies. So people are like, oh, congratulations. Da, da, da. He's like, no, not so fast. I still have to defend it. Remember, there's a process of like, they're going to
Yes, it is.
defend a little dissertation. So he said, that's like 2 weeks from Monday, where it was, right? Cool. So the weekend leading up to that Monday, there are a number of people in the group chat, and I run this platform. I know they don't know them. People in Japan and Europe, drop in the group chat. Hey, Roy, good luck on Monday. You got this, bud. Just, hey, we were tracking your life, and like, we're pulling for you the way you're pulling for us. And on Monday, nothing from Roy. Finally, someone posted like, hey, anybody hear from Roy about the whole dissertation thing? Like, nothing. And then Tuesday morning, Roy appeared and he said, you may now call me Dr. King. And people went effing nuts. Did it affect the lives of anyone else in that chat? No, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be underestimated, because we are in this together.
Yeah, where everybody was pulling for Roy in that. And like I went through a similar situation. I finished my PhD, this year. So under similar circumstances and in a similar way.
Mm-hmm.
It was I wasn't out telling everybody, hey, I'm working on this, is this thing that I'm doing. It was I had to get into it, and I had to be head down, locked in, and it's astounding what you can accomplish. And I've always been able to do it, but I didn't know what it was or what to name it or what to
Can
call
we talk about it?
Oh, we're getting to it. Yeah, we're going to talk about
what you're winding up. Okay, I'm ready to pitch.
Yeah, we're winding it up. But
pitch.
this is where, I went through a similar experience as Roy did. And there are, to your point, did it directly affect other people's lives? No. And yes. That's the critical element here, is when we're pulling together, right? There's, again, that goes back to energy. We can roll back to science in this particular one.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to Newtonian physics if you really want to play hard on this.
Did you pull that out? Really? Wow.
I did. I threw it out there. But that's the reality, is when we're having this conversation, like even the conversation Steven and I are having right now, there is an energy between Steven and I. It's a different energy than I will have with other people. And that's totally okay. And yet when people are going to connect with Steven on his platform through his website and go, man, I heard you on the Total Disruption podcast. I love what we're talking about there. Do I get some gratification out of that? Of course I do. I was there when it happened. There's a piece of that I get to take with me. So I get to celebrate that with him. So the same is true with everybody that was pulling for Roy. Man, you got this. You're doing great. How can we help? What can we do to defend it? When he succeeds, so do we. So there's a piece of that. You get to celebrate his victory alongside it. Yeah. So that's that. Man, I'm loving that. So back to let's get into it. Yeah.
It's true. Well, let me mention this. So I landed here in Austin from JFK late last night, and I was kind of dragging like that post-lunch thing, and chatting with you leading into our podcast today got me energized again. Like that interaction with you where you were like very present, I don't mean this as flattery. I mean this as like a note about how this works, is the way you were so present when we were prepping for this. You're like, I want to be intentional about this. Here are things I think are most interesting to my audience. Here's the value we deliver. Da, da, da. I was like, oh yeah, I want to rise up and do that with you. That I'm inspired to make a great episode with you. Whereas 5 minutes earlier, I was like, Oh man, like I wish I'd slept more last night, but it was a late flight, you know. Okay, so let's get back on track because I want to make this actionable. So
Yeah.
to pick up on what you said maybe 2 or 3 minutes ago, which was when you were in it, right? This is very close to my heart. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds, everyone listening here. I'm going to give you 30 seconds on why it's close to my heart, and then we're going to get into actionable stuff. So I am having my first child in like 6 weeks, which
Awesome.
has, since Laura and I were in Thailand over New Year's, we talked about what does this year hold? One of the big things was, let us have a child, right? And for the first time in my life, I started thinking about what have I done to improve the world that I'm going to hand off to him? I'm going to be gone one day, and this is going to be his world and hopefully eventually my daughter's. And one of the things that really stood out for me is I wish I had learned about flow states earlier in my career, because I didn't until I was in my tech career. In my film career, I was not aware of what it was, right? So let's dive into that. What the heck is this thing? Why do people talk about it? It's becoming very popular now. Now it's in the zeitgeist. Some percentage of your audience is nodding their heads. I'm a flow master. I don't need to know anything. I got it. Some percentage are like, I've heard about it. What the heck, right? Okay. So here's the deal, just to set the table. Hungarian-American psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, he had a thesis. He's like, high performers seem to get into these concentrated states where they do the stuff they're famous for, the stuff that moves the world. And they describe that state in very similar terms across disciplines, athletes and artists and scientists and inventors. When they talk about like, why is it similar? What is it that they do that makes that state accessible to them, right? So he did the research. At the end of it, he wrote a book. The book is called Flow. It is the seminal work on this. And I think he said something so great where he said, I chose this word because it was the most beautiful metaphor for what I found, which is we are all on the river paddling ourselves forward. But if you align your boat with the current, it carries you. It magnifies your efforts. You go further and faster. And that's what these people have figured out how to do. They figured out how to get into the current and stay in the current. So like Prometheus, he's like, I went up on Mount Olympus. I got some fire. Bring it down to everybody else. Like, who wants fire, right? And it was an incredibly generous thing he did. He actually he died 4 years ago next month. Just an amazing guy. Great TED Talk. There are links on my site if anyone wants to go deep on this. I did a whole blog post on like the history of our understanding. And from Mihai's work, which named flow states, a lot of people, it's the standing on the shoulders of giants, who are standing on the shoulders of giants thing, right? So people have written deep on what kind of music gets you into it, what kind of, time boxing or mental techniques, what kind of environment and workstation, like all this stuff to get into flow. But the thing he said is this is 2 parts. He said, it seems like among all of these different high performers, a couple things have to be true. They have to believe the task is meaningful. So it is not stapling your TPS reports, or it is doing something you go, this is going to move my life forward or my team's life forward, right? Second, you have to have skills that apply. So I always joke about, it's not Michael Jordan painting or Picasso playing basketball, right? You have to be challenged. So it is not Michael Jordan playing an exhibition game at his kid's high school. It is in the NBA doing the stuff that 30 years later is in the highlight reel, right? It is Picasso standing back and looking at a half-finished Guernica and going, I think this is starting to express the horrors of war, Like those states are incredible because you lose, as Mihai, you lose track of time, which I experienced on that flight where I was like, we just took off, right? You do great work. You're not distracted, and our world is full of really great $1 trillion companies whose business model is steal your life, and they're not hiding it. 10 years ago, they all kind of like hid it and were embarrassed when they had to testify in Congress. Now it is like in their S1s, it's in their quarterly filings. They're like, we are stealing everyone's lives, and next quarter we're going to try and steal more. Okay, shareholder value, right? So that life that they're stealing is yours. As you're driving it at home, wherever you are listening to this, you are the thing that they need to eat to make money, right? So Flow states.
Okay, say that again. That
Yeah.
was ridiculously powerful. Don't skip. We don't want to glaze over
Oh,
that.
sure.
Say that piece again.
For these trillion-dollar companies, you are the thing they need to eat to make money. There is no business if you don't give them your life. And it is straight up now. Like it is like Zuckerberg calls you each day and goes, "Hey Jake, could I have your life? And by the way, I'm going to sell it to these advertisers and I will keep the money, but I'm going to give you some dancing cat videos, buddy."
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Is that a good trade? Yeah. How about that? Right. Which sounds ludicrous when I say it, but it is exactly what they're doing.
It is
And
the
trust
truth.
me, with kids coming, I pray that my kids look at our generation with social media the way I look at my dad's generation with smoking, where I'm like, how could you do that? Half your friends died of lung cancer. You have emphysema. And dad's like, all the movie stars were doing it. It was glamorous. And, the tobacco companies were putting out studies about how healthy tobacco was. We didn't know. I sure hope my kids are like, oh my God, that thing's over, right? So let's bring us back on track though. So some percentage of your audience, Jake, they're going to do something effing amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Some percentage is going to end up 80 years old on the sofa, scrolling and double tapping, being like, I could have been somebody. Oh yeah, I had that idea for a business. Oh yeah, I could have opened that restaurant. Oh, I could have written that great American novel, but I was just, not going to stoop to that, right? So I'm talking to the ones who are like, I refuse to die with the great thing left inside me. I will get that out before I die, right? We're talking to you right now. You can use flow states as a tool, as a shield from the companies who want to steal your life. So if you say, you know what, like Dr. King said, I have 60 to 90 minutes in between high school getting out and my kids needing me. I need to use that like a superpower, right? Flow state, get in there, block your distractions, don't pick up your phone, do the great thing, right? You repeat that each day with intention. It is astounding how far you get. So there's a lot more to say on flow states. I've been talking for a bunch and I want to be quiet, turn the talking stick back to you, but passionate about this and really grateful, for you to have me on to share this kind of knowledge. So hopefully the world gets better and people do stuff that's meaningful.
Which is the absolute truth, right? Is we're designed to do it. We're built this way. We are capable and cognizant of doing far more than we're doing. Every single person out there, and from a neurolinguistics programming standpoint, that's a presupposition, right? Everybody has every resource they need to do today, anything that they could possibly want to do in this world.
Yep.
Period. That's the reality. You have access to it. And what Steven's talking about here is conscious decision making to, all right, here's what I'm passionate about. Here's what I believe in. Let's be really clear on that. And that's one of the key elements here is you have to believe it makes a difference. You have to believe in it. You have to believe it makes an impact. And you've got to have a skill set around it. Now, I go back now around the skill set around it. You might be wildly passionate about a subject and know not as much as you would like. But guess what? Let's go back to the beginning of this conversation. In a community, somebody else knows about it. Somebody else can be a mentor or a role model. We talk about this all the time on the show. And community is, if I'm not raising the bar, if I'm not grading myself, we'll go back to my very first book, Rings of Impact, right? And in, let's say, business in this capacity. In my business, if I'm grading myself at like a 6 out of 10, who are the 5 people I'm spending the most time with? Are they 7s? Are they 8s? Are they 9s? Or are they 4s? Like, let's think about where I am. Who can mentor me? Who can role model me? Who can inspire me to do better in that particular space? So once I have achieved that level of practical skills and or knowledge with the alignment of the belief, now I can move into this flow state space.
Preach.
Yeah. I do. Sometimes it drives Mike nuts too. I can go on. It's been said.
He's at a little league game. Don't even worry about him. We're
right.
good.
He's doing good. So, well, let's do this, man. I want to give flow state the appropriate amount of time. I
Mhm.
want to make sure that our people, so let's do this. I want you guys to come back next week. I want you guys to
Mhm.
come back and join us. Stephen and I are going to break down. We're going to be really specific on flow state of what we're talking about, so that you guys can use this tool. And what I want you to take from this episode is community. Like, don't live in a silo.
Yep.
Get out there, engage, go to the coffee shop, go to places that have the energy that you want so that you can grow your energy and you can get ready to do the positive things. Cool with you, Steven?
That is fantastic. Thank you for having me.
All right,
Hope this has
guys,
been
it's your
helpful.
turn to disrupt.